Hey, good morning. This is Jodi Schultz here with Source Mortgage Center, and I'm joined today with Susan Kramer, who's a licensed realtor with Coldwell Banker On Track Realty out of Central Alberta. Thank you so much, Susan, for taking the time to be here with me today.
Thanks for inviting me, Jodi.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So Susan, one of the questions I get asked a lot, and actually even I wonder as a homeowner myself, is how do I know what my home or my property is worth? Is that something that you would be able to answer for us today?
You bet. You bet. It's easy. So,
Okay.
well, easy for me. I don't know about everybody, but it's you can read different reports and things online, but truly the only way to find out what your specific is going to be worth on today's market is to have a comparative market analysis done.
Okay.
We call them CMAs for short in the real estate industry.
Mhm.
But it's where a realtor goes into the historic and the current MLS, and
Mhm.
they can look at listings that are similar to yours. They can also look at the history on your home if you've owned it recently. And with that historical information, they look at things like the active listings on the market today, the ones that are marked pending, which means they have an offer on them already. And then they also look at the ones that have recently sold within the last 3 months. So we have access as realtors to data that you would not have as a
Right.
consumer.
Right.
Then we look at that data and we try and make the properties comparable. So
Mhm.
to make them comparable, we have to look at what are the assets that your property brings. So it could be things like your property has a kitchen upgrade, but
Mhm.
one of the properties that we're comparing you to does not. So we would need to add the value of that kitchen upgrade to the property that does not have it so that we're now comparing apples and apples.
Right.
The same thing would be true if a comparable property, say for example, had a garage and the property that you're selling does not. So then we would have to subtract the value of the garage from the comparable property. So again, we're back with apples and apples.
Right.
And then once we have those numbers, we're able to create a range of where your property could potentially sell.
Mhm.
And then a discussion happens with the sellers saying, where would you like the price to be given this data? And we
Right.
share the data with the seller. That's kind of how it goes on the seller side. On the buyer side, we do the exact same things with the comparable properties, but then we have the discussion with the buyer about where they could potentially offer within that range where they're comfortable.
Yeah, with their budget. So really, either way, it's the comps, like the comparable, what's sold
Yes.
is going to help determine value.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
And
it's not kind of one of these with a realtor. I mean, there's
no,
some actual factual
some data.
information behind it.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is what you're describing is exactly what a real estate appraiser would do if they were sent into your home to give it a value. Exactly that. They're going to be a little, they're going to measure it, take photos, and then they're going to compare it against what has recently sold and then do the adjustments like you've described based on what your home has or doesn't have compared to the other
Yeah.
ones that have sold in the neighborhood. So same idea.
Yeah. Where we run into troubles is when there's not enough comparables.
Right.
So like right now in the current market, for example, it's a seller's market and we have more buyers than we have sellers. And there's not a lot of properties coming on the market right now. So when we look at that historic data, sometimes we need to go back a little further than 3 months.
Normal. Yeah.
Yeah. And that can skew things too, because we've just come out of a situation where prices were higher than normal in 21 for sure, and in 22 as well. So when we compare, sometimes we have to go back to 2019 to get into the situation that we're actually in today.
Right.
So it can get a little tricky, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. Well, thank you so much, Susan. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. And I've got Susan's contact information below if anyone has any questions about what their home is worth. And I know you do lots of CMAs. If anyone's interested in having you do that, please reach out to Susan. I know she'd be happy to help you.
Thanks, Jodi.
Yeah, my pleasure, Susan. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.